Hi, peoples. It's Paul Gunson from the Ark. Spending a message, sharing a message about how to prepare for this coming flood that I believe we're heading towards. It's a flood of possibility, information, where we're going, what's going on in the world today, hidden agendas, conspiracy theories, and just good old practical common sense. So what I want to do today is introduce you to a friend of mine, somebody who I think's got a valid approach towards life. Somebody who's been in the health and wellness industry for many years, understands why we need to look after ourselves, particularly in these days of social isolation. And he's going to share some information with us, some insights, a little bit of science, and share with what he's doing from a business point of view, on a personal note. So what I'd like to do is introduce my good friend, Kevin Mogan. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hi, Paul. I'm really good, thank you. Thanks for the invite. First time on the Ark.
First time on the Ark. Well, as you know,
Thank
the
you.
analogy of the Ark was about preparing for something that nobody really understood. And while I am a kind of God-fearing man, and I'm also a conspiracy theorist by nature, I do think in what is now a very troubled world, in what's going on with this COVID-19, is, are there practical things that we can do for health and wellness, and what are we doing? So first of all, let me ask you, Kevin, from obviously our friendship and the conversations we've had of recent, you know, has this impacted on you? I mean, what about your? I mean, I know you promote health and wellness, but
Yeah.
what was the practical impact on you? What have you experienced with it?
I'd experienced a long time ago when I was really ill in the mid-90s, significant levels of anxiety and depression, etc. When that eventually subsided and I started being able to live my life a lot more freely and being in control of my own health and my own destiny in that respect, I've kind of not felt those feelings again. However, these last 3 weeks in isolation, I have to say, really reminded me of the impact that anxiety and any level of depression can have on someone. And that's been caused primarily out of fear and isolation, fear of the unknown, and being isolated, which is something that goes completely against who we are and what we are as a species, not being able to, hug and kiss or touch in any way, shape or form your loved ones and friends. Now, we know that we're able to do that in our own home because we're all living together in the same isolation. So what I'm talking about is that not being able to go out really, except for our little bits of exercise. And a lot of people aren't doing that either because they're so fearful of going out. And then using the telephone and Zoom and Skype and all of the other ways that people are now communicating a lot more with their families. In that respect, I think I wish I'd have bought some shares in Zoom before all this happened. I'm sure that's been a real good profit earner for them. Joking aside, anxiety and depression is on my mind a lot. Haven't experienced it. I don't think I'm in that frame of mind, but a conversation that you and I had last week, I was really slumped and down. And I don't feel like that. I haven't felt like that for a long time. And that's only because of this habitual change that's now being enforced on us. And that's another thing as well. We don't really like being told what to do we? We don't really like having our freedoms taken away from us. That then builds on the fear and the anxiety. The misinformation often that is also on TV, again, building more fear and anxiety. So it's pumped on top of us every single day, and it's building and building and building. And I feel for the people who are actually in that state, who actually feel anxiety and depression on a regular basis, even before any of this happened. Now, I've got my own feelings about where that comes from and how and why, because of the physiology of the human body and where that comes from in the brain. And I believe it's due to malnutrition. A lot of people don't agree, but a lot of people do agree. So that's where I come from when it comes to keeping good health and how you can keep your spirits up, how you can try your best to stay positive, because it's not just the human body that we need to nourish on a daily basis with the correct nutrients. It's also the brain and how the brain acts and what those thoughts are and generated from certain areas of the brain that, if not nourished correctly, then causes lower levels of the correct chemicals in order for you to be in a high, so to speak. So you then feel anxious and even levels of depression. So that's where I've always come from when it comes to my primary business, which is nutrition, and how you can look after yourself physically and mentally by nourishing your body correctly.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, and that's kind of the kind of leads on to the kind of next phase of the question is that we were talking just a little bit before the show came on of the social impact which you've mentioned, not being able to hug, kiss, etc., etc. The body, while it has the ability to heal itself, it has to be placed into an environment by which it can do that. Now, when I go down the route of religion, for me, it's about having faith. It's about trusting in God. It's about, having the confidence that if I stay faithful to what I'm being asked to do at a spiritual level, I should be in a good place. And I kind of felt that I was, like you. But I got hit with the bombshell 4 weeks ago. I lost my wife to COVID-19. Now, while I would have considered myself like you, relatively sound mind and body, I experienced a whole new emotion that I hadn't had. For the first time in 43 years, my wife's not here. And I'm now having to, readjust my mind to say, hold on. And normally I would ask my wife that, or we'd have this conversation and we talk about this and we talk about that. And I don't have that. So my whole mindset right now, it's a conundrum. It's, where am I? What am I doing? I'm kind of a goal orientated type of person. And I'm looking and I'm saying, hold on, all of my goals were based on my family, my wife, what we were going to be doing this year. What we were planning on going on a cruise for our holiday this year. That's now gone. We were going to do this, we were going to do that, we were going to retire in America. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden now, that social isolation for me is saying, hold on, where are you going? What are you doing with your life? And this is kind of why I've come down this podcast, because one, I want to get my emotions out. I want to share with people what I'm experiencing, so that we have this interaction with others that will help. Now, I know we've had a little bit of that discussion before. So how do you see the social impact of the isolation now? Because I know you're a business, and I'm going to ask you to talk about your business in a sec. But just from I could say psychological, and perhaps more on a psychological basis, but more so on the physiology side of it, because I know you've got a lot of science behind your nutrition, as to whether we like it or not, whether we think we're good or bad or indifferent, we are now in a new phase of humanity. And the world has changed, and it's changed drastically, because all of a sudden now that social isolation is having the massive impact on our brain structure, because we're not thinking the way we used to think, and so let talk about that, of how you see that impacting, and why you think nutrition is crucial now, not only as a personal thing, but potentially for people from a business perspective, and some of the science behind that, if you would, Kev, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. But I do feel that we will get back to a level of normality. I do feel that this is temporary, albeit a few more weeks at home. Fingers crossed that's all it's going to be, but it really does look like it's going to be at least a minimum of another 2 or 3 weeks at home, doesn't it? Judging by yesterday's reports that were on the TV. And yes, that does have a huge impact on how we are socially, because as we've already discussed, there is no social interaction. How we're interacting with others now has completely changed. And if we're to have that new way of interacting with each other for up to 12 weeks in total, pretty much like the Chinese did, then yeah, that absolutely will change the way people are looking at themselves, look at their lives. It will give people enough time and scope to take stock of their life. Hopefully that this is the process that they'll go through, rather than feeling low and then ending up in an anxious level, or even as low as depression. Fingers crossed that's not going to happen for the vast majority. What it is going to do is that it's going to give us all time to take stock and rethink our lives. What is important in our life right now? You know, and at the end of the day, no matter what we've got or what we do or how rich we are, the two important things in our life, at the very top, is our health, which is all about us and ourselves, and our family. Now, your family could just be a partner, it could be your brothers and sisters, or it could be your partner and children. All of that side of the family is what I'm talking about. Regardless of what that family looks like, that's number two. And then everything else falls into place afterwards. So it seems logical to me that the best thing to do is to look at the thing that's number one, that governs all the rest of it. Because if you haven't got your health, everything else pales into insignificance, because you're not able to spend time with your friends and family in a way that you used to, even in isolation. If you're living with your family and you're all isolated, you're not able to play with the grandchildren or the children because you're not well. You haven't got the strength. I'm not talking about COVID-19 now. I'm talking about anything at all that has affected your health. So it seems logical to me that that is number one and should always be number one. The analogy that I always give for that, for people to have a look at how important that is when you're on an airplane and you're being given the instructions of what to do when the masks come down, they always say, fit your own first. Mm-hmm. Now, a woman in panic, a mother or a father in panic will want to immediately fit the mask to the child, and that's not what you should do, because you could become incapacitated halfway through that. Mm-hmm. This is exactly the same. You have to look at your own health first and foremost before anything else, because if you haven't got that, everything else changes. Absolutely everything in your life changes. And I know that to be true because I've experienced it. I had 4 years of I've forgotten what it was called now. Oh, tuberculosis. Yeah. In 1995 to about 99, or halfway through that. And then trying to wean myself off the painkillers that they gave me whilst trying to combat that. So on that level, I know this to be true because everything changed around me. Because when you're ill, you're not the only one that's affected. The whole family network and your friend network is all changed. So I find that to be the most paramount thing to do. So I did an awful lot of research to find out what that actually meant. What does that mean physiologically? What is it that I need to look at? What works with what? What's the top thing? So in pretty much looking at the body, so you've got the brain and the heart and then the rest of the organs. I wanted to know what it was that fed all of them. What was the best approach that nature wanted me to do? What was it that I was missing? Where were the signs? And it all came down to, after years of research, and still does today, the opinion still hasn't changed in me today, is that I felt ill then and with other illnesses that I've had in my life purely out of malnutrition. My body wasn't well enough, my immune system wasn't high enough to tackle a bacterium at that stage, which is the TB, that came into my body at that time, and it ran right throughout my whole system. Every other illness beforehand and afterwards, same process. I was malnourished. I wasn't looking after my immune system properly. Now, the immune system, you and I have discussed a few times. It's been known for a long, long time that we've got 11 systems. For example, the respiratory system, the urinary system, etc., and there are 11 of them we've known for a long, long time. In 1992, it was discovered we had another system, which turned out to be, after much more research, to be the umbrella system of all of the others and the one that created homeostasis in the body. And that's the endocannabinoid system. So not only does it turn out that we have to look at vitamins and minerals, which is what comes from our food, we also had to look at the importance of cannabinoids, namely CBD. So that's the discovery that I've had about all of the systems in my body and what feeds them. And that meant on a physical level and on an emotional level, because if you're not feeding yourself physically properly, then that will also have an emotional impact. And if you're ill and you weren't anxious or depressed, an illness severe enough and over a certain length of time can cause anxiety or depression, and the other way around. So your emotional stability has an impact on your physical, and the other way around. So they're the things that I've discovered over almost 30 years now of best practices for looking after myself and my body. Because I'm worth nourishing, I'm worth looking after myself.
I mean that's interesting.
So is everybody else.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting, Kevin, and thanks for that. My kind of approach using my conspiracy theory hat, and I know you're going to be able to answer this because I know some of the science behind the nutritional side of your business, which we'll talk about in a sec, is that in my conspiracy world, such subjects like chemtrails, how interesting it's been that when I look up into the sky now and I'm looking out my window right now, it's a beautiful, clear blue sky. Now, normally I can almost play noughts and crosses with the chemtrails, that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I know something that's at perhaps a deeper level, and I'm going to ask you the question to talk a little bit about the science, is, because of over farming and because of this chemtrail conspiracy, we're being poisoned very, very slowly from the outside in by consuming, as you say, very, very poor
toxins.
Quality foods, over farm foods, lacking in nutrition, lacking in minerals, but we're eating it thinking we're doing good, when in reality we're not doing good. We're probably on a poor. I mean, I'm obese, so I've got issues right away. I'm diabetic. I've had a heart attack. So right away, I'm almost screwed. But the reality is...
But as of late, you've taken control.
Yeah.
You've had a look at how important vitamins and minerals are for your body. And that's something that you've already started. So in the months to come, your body will absolutely benefit from that. And you also will emotionally.
Yeah, and that's kind of why, I'm doing this podcast series, which is called The Arc with Paul Gunson, because I want to raise that awareness, the fact that, there is a poor quality food out there. If you're, how great it is that we haven't been able to go to McDonald's for 3 weeks. Hallelujah, there is a God, But the reality is people will go, McDonald's every day.
It's strange that you put McDonald's and food in the same context.
Well, there you go. Lack of quality, isn't it? But how many people will spend? And here's the other side of it, because kind of looking at the business element now, people wouldn't think twice about going spending £8-9 on cigarettes. £8 to £9 every couple of days on a bottle of wine. £8 to £9 every couple of days on alcohol, crisps, chocolate, all the things that, I mean, people aren't stupid. I mean, they might be ignorant, but they're not stupid. Yeah. That they'll spend an absolute fortune on everything that's of no value for you, as from a nutritional,
On a
health,
nutritional level, yeah.
wellness, beneficial type of. But now we're in a position, and I'm going to ask you the question now. We're in a position where we can, as you mentioned before, reflecting back and saying, "Hold on, how can I turn this negative environment that I'm in into a
Yeah,
positive?" And one
yeah,
of the ways is to get involved in a business that promotes health and wellness. Because I kind of hear what you say about, I hope this is all over in 2 or 3 weeks. Personally, I don't think so. I think it's going to be a lot longer than that. I have
that wouldn't
reasons
surprise me, Paul.
which we'll go into on another podcast. But here's the issue: even if it is only for 2 or 3 more weeks, and I hope it is, I hope it is. I really do hope it's over in 2 or 3 weeks' time. But here's the thing: we need to have this paradigm shift now. Take the positive out of the negative.
Yeah,
Get ourselves into a disciplined environment where we do focus on our health. And
yeah,
for that same 20, 30, 40 pound, whatever it is a week, where we're, buying absolutely rubbish, that we now say, "Do you know what? I'm going to change the way I think. I am going to start looking at myself." As you say, as you were about to say the maths thing on the plane, I was kind of already thinking I was going to ask the question, but you jumped in, you beat me to it. But here's the thing: tell us about your business and the business that I've also joined, by the way, because I'm looking at my body from a better nutritional point of view to help with my weight management. So tell us a little bit about your business, the business that we're in. Tell us a little bit about the science, and tell us how people can find out about it and get involved.
Well, amongst other things that I do as a natural therapist, um, I distribute vitamins and minerals for a company called Simply Naturals. They're a British company down in Somerset, and they go mining, deep mining to 65 million years ago for minerals. And they take them from the former plant life from prehistoric times. So we call them jokingly dinosaur minerals because it's from the dinosaur period. So they've got no levels of toxicity. Man didn't interrupt them in any way, shape, or form with insecticides and pesticides because we weren't around doing that then. And they come out of the ground pure. So we go digging for them. We crush the rock, which is what they've turned into, rather than oil or coal. Then we wash that with triple distilled water, and what's left is a white powder. Then we've got the amazing lab guys who test the Olympians for drug use to give a certificate to prove what that white powder is, and it's all 75 minerals. So we're the only company on the planet that has full spectrum sizzling minerals, because we've been able to put it into a nice fizzy drink, which is great for kids. That's actually one of them that I've been drinking this morning, because I take mine in the morning. And it also comes in a capsule form. And we also do full spectrum vitamins. So 75 minerals and 16 vitamins. Now, normally when you go into the high street and you ask for a multivitamin or a multimineral, you'll be lucky to get maximum maybe 11. We do all 75 and all 16. Now, the ones in the high street, sadly, 95% of them, and some on the internet as well, sadly, 95% of them are taken from rock, clay, and soil. So they are metallic minerals. Now, the food industry is still allowed these companies to call them minerals and sell them like that because it's true. But unfortunately, it's not what nature has built us for. Otherwise, we would be licking clay, rock, and soil because that's where they've taken them from. And what we're supposed to do as a living being is absorb them after they've been absorbed by a plant. So a plant absorbs the metallic mineral, takes out what it needs, absorbs coats the remainder with a couple of enzymes, and then changes that state into a vegetated mineral state. And that's what we're meant to eat. That's why we're meant to eat lots and lots of fruits and vegetables, because it's the only way we can get them into our body, or was. Now, sadly, for the last 100 years or so, we've done so much damage to the soil with insecticides and pesticides and synthetic additives, acid rain, the way we farm, irrigation. It's washed all of the minerals, nearly all of the minerals, away from the topsoil. So if the minerals aren't in the soil, then they're not in the plant. And if they're not in the plant, then devastatingly, they're not in us. That's what we believe is causing about 99% of the world's modern illnesses, because of malnutrition. That's why I said to you earlier on, I believe during my studies of why I became so ill, and was ill before it and ill after it, with many illnesses that I've had in my life. That was the worst period, though, when having tuberculosis. They were all because my immune system couldn't tackle a very simple bacterium that most people would be able to tackle, because their immune systems are at a reasonable level. So very, very briefly to tell you what that is, an immune system for an average male, for example, the marker in blood would be somewhere between 500 and 2,500. Now, when they took my blood to find out why I had this TB, it was at 5. So I was living with my immune system at the level of 5, i.e. the T helper cells, for quite a long time. So when this bacterium came in, it found a wonderful home to start causing havoc. So then we had to try and build up my immune system. Eventually, that's how I was able to get rid of it, along with some help from an antibiotic. Now, they tried quite a few of them. Most of them didn't do anything at all. And the rest of them caused some side effects. The last one also caused some side effects. I lost top end of my hearing, and I now have 24/7 tinnitus. But that was the trade-off. You know, it was the only thing that was going to work. So although I absolutely firmly believe in the number one thing we should be looking at is us and ourselves and how we nourish this amazing thing that we live in, it does not mean that I'm against the use of certain drugs or the pharmaceutical industry in any way, shape or form. Some of its practices I don't like, but there is a place for both. But for me, the way I've lived my life, and I know it to be true now, is because I've been able to keep it on track, is because I took control rather than handing that control over to strangers in white coats or the government or the pharmaceutical industry, and just taking what people are giving me. Best to do the research and find out what's going in your body, and that includes for any kind of inoculation that you might be having. What is it? What's in that? These are the questions that we should be asking ourselves every single day. What's important for my body right now? What am I breathing in? What am I eating? And that's one of the focus things that I think people will be doing a lot of during this potential three months in isolation.
Kevin, I want to thank you for that. I want to wrap you up. A lot of good information there, a lot of good practical knowledge. You're certainly a learned man.
Paul, don't you think that this is a great time also for people to be looking at home business?
As I say, I am an eternal optimist, and
take
that's
up your time with home business.
That's the message I want to get out there. Is look, these are difficult times. Yes, the world has changed. Is the world going to end tomorrow? I don't think so. Is it going to be next week, a year? I don't know. But
yeah, we're more resilient than that, aren't we?
Is exactly do what you say. Is get educated, and that's the message we're going to give out. What I'm going to do right now is invite people to, look at the Arc with Liverpool. We're going to supply links. Certainly going to be putting links to the business that we're involved, which is, simple natural products, so that people can look at the science, look at the information, do the study, do the reading, get off your butt, stop watching Coronation Street, stop watching EastEnders, get bloody educated, wake up, peoples. Get educated, find out what's going on in the world, look at the science, look at the information. More importantly, take control. So, I'm going to sign off. This is Paul Gunsford.
Take control of your health.
are you prepared? Stay home, stay safe, and save lives. This is Paul from New York signing off. Take care, people. Thank you once again, Kevin. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Bye now.